despite repeated assurances from the Obama administration that it was not targeting its political enemies through the IRS during the last election cycle. We've now learned that the IRS was, in fact, singling out conservative groups.
Minority Leader Mitch McConnell yesterday on the floor of the Senate echoing great concern that was really reverberating all through the District of Columbia yesterday over the revelations that the IRS specifically singled out grassroots conservative groups, specifically those with the name Tea Party, and eventually went back and also singled out patriots and groups that said "We the People" in their title or in their description. Joining us now, a person who runs one of those groups, Jamie Radtke. She's with the Virginia Tea Party group. Good morning, Jamie. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me this morning.
I got to ask you, I mean, you're seeing all of this revelation. The media's jumping on it. The congressmen are jumping on it. This actually is kind of an old story from your perspective, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, when I was the president of Richmond Tea Party, we tried to apply for status, 501c4 nonprofit status back in 2009, and they kept dragging their feet. We finally heard from them like 10 months later with a list of questions that we needed to answer. Ironically, the timing was strange that it came 2 weeks before we were getting ready to have the Tea Party convention here in Virginia, which had, almost 200 media present, national media, international media. And we went through, answered the questions, never heard from them until 2012, the election year, like you stated. And we got this Richmond Tea Party received a form that had 17 questions and 53 parts to it.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
But the thing that was crazy, I was running for U.S. Senate at the time. I had left Richmond Tea Party and was running for U.S. Senate, and Richmond Tea Party shows me this form they've received, and it wanted the name, address, phone numbers of every donor, of every volunteer. And the thing that caught my eye the most was it said in there that the information would be available for, quote, public inspection.
Yes.
So it felt very much like we're going to take every one of your volunteers and every one of your donors, and we're going to let everybody know who's involved in this organization.
So what did they do?
Well, they ended up not complying. Richmond Tea Party got involved with ACLJ and Jay Sekulow, and they pushed back and said, we're not doing this. I took time out of my Senate campaign and wrote a letter to Congressman Issa asking him to launch a formal investigation into what was going on, told him this was way over the top.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, we just heard at the top of the hour that the president has now read the Inspector General's report, and he is outraged, and he wants swift action with regard to this. And you see many politicians jumping on board here. Nancy Pelosi even said this is an outrage. But you and other groups have been talking about this for about a year and a half, 2 years now, and suddenly they're all getting upset about it. Where was the outrage before the election when the story was there? Why suddenly are they just understanding that this is a story only because the IRS has admitted it?
Well, that's the thing that's very interesting because, Glenn Beck and others had covered this back over a year ago. I wrote a letter to Congressman Issa, never heard back from him, never even got an acknowledgement that he received the letter.
The president claims that he just heard about it from news reports on Friday.
Yeah, you got to like how he always hears about things. He's never to blame. It's always somebody else's fault.
Well, on that point, though, I mean, one of the interesting things is pointed out by a friend of ours that he said, we had no idea this was going on. And by the way, the IRS is sort of an independent agency. We're really not supposed to get involved in what they're doing over there. But then as soon as he read the report, he put out a statement last night saying, I've told my Treasury Secretary that heads should roll over there. They should find out who's responsible and hold them accountable. Well, why wasn't he holding them accountable back when they were actually doing this stuff?
Well, the thing that's disturbing, too, is it came out this week that the IRS is going to be collecting on their new forms information about whether or not you have health care.
Yes.
And when you see what they do with abuses, if you don't follow certain ideologies or do certain things, and now they're going to start following you and determining whether or not you have Obamacare or not, it means people start to wonder what the IRS is going to do to you, how public they're going to make things, whether they're going to, punish you for not following certain ideologies. It's very disconcerting. Any group should be concerned, whether you're conservative or not.
All right. So Jamie Radtke, where do things go from here? What action would you like taken? Do you want congressional hearings into this?
We absolutely need congressional hearings. I think that anybody involved needs to be fired, and I think that it needs to be determined how far up the chain of command this goes. There's no way that a couple of low-level bureaucrats in Cincinnati in their cubicle decided all this information on their own. We all know that that's not how government works.
Well,
so we need to find out how far up this really goes.
Yeah, I mean, look, there has been no demonstrated link yet between the IRS's actions and anybody in the Obama campaign or anybody in the Obama administration, but one wonders how it is that this is the action the IRS. They weren't asking questions of any of the progressive groups. So, how did this come to be? I think that's a very fair and open question.
Well, and it does need to be determined how far up it goes in the IRS. They've shown that the superiors knew that this has been going on for a long time. I mean, one thing you have to give credit to is the Inspector Generals and the report that came out. I only wish that other legislators, people that knew, congressmen that we had told, had done something about it a lot earlier than this.
Hey, Jamie Radtke, before we let you go, last time we had you on, you were very critical of Governor McDonnell in Virginia and the transportation bill. Now, over the last couple of weeks, we've had all of these revelations about some cozying up with this Star Scientific company. In fact, just over the weekend, another story broke that apparently they were giving little promotional goodies into governors' bags when they came here for the National Governors Association, and those goodies came from Star Scientific. What's your opinion on the governor's cozy relationship with this company? Is there something inappropriate? Do you support the FBI investigation?
Well, I think the one thing that people are concerned about is just the lack of transparency in government and by our elected officials. We have really simple rules in Virginia. You basically can do whatever you want as long as you disclose it. And we've had difficulties with that, not only obviously with the governor, but now we have that in some other elections going on here statewide. You need to disclose what you do, and the fact that he passed that transportation tax bill and now calling it a jobs bill, and it's the largest tax increase since we implemented the sales tax here in Virginia, and then said, this really is a jobs bill. It's not a tax increase bill. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that the misleading that goes on, people are just very frustrated with.
Thank you. Jamie Radtke, co-founder of the Virginia Tea Party. Thanks so much for joining us.